Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the GI Huddle. Today we're joined by Tim Kennedy of SUZOHAPP to discuss US sports betting in retail. Hi Tim, thanks for joining us today.
Nice to meet you, Tim.
Absolutely, yeah, it's fantastic to have another Tim join us on the huddle. It's not something I've been able to say yet, and yeah, I'm pretty happy to say that. Happy to have you on.
Yeah, no, it's great to be here. Good to talk to you.
Yeah, fantastic. As I say, good to have you on. And we're here to talk about kind of US sports betting in retail. But to start off, I know you were recently appointed as a VP of Sales Europe by SUZOHAPP. I just wanted to ask kind of what attracted you to the company and what kind of experience do you bring with you to the role?
Yeah, so I've got a very extensive experience, as you can see from my age, that spans gaming, amusement and betting. And essentially, SUZOHAPP has for a long time been supplying a number of OEMs in various markets, including sports betting, but recently sort of extended its reach to offering retail sports betting solutions. So really what enticed me into the role was SUZOHAPP has a vision for the future of being much more than just a component supplier or an aftermarket supplier, much more of an end-to-end solutions provider. Coupled with the opportunity in various markets, including the US, it seemed like a good time to join and be part of that growth plan.
Sure, yeah, makes a lot of sense. And do you think it's fair to say off the back of that it's not a new era, but a new phase for you and both for SUZOHAPP?
No, absolutely. As I said, in the past, SUZO was very much known for supplying components to OEMs or supplying components to the aftermarket. So for operators that wanted, a range of spare parts. And we're looking now to add much more value to our customers' relationship by being the sourcing and design service for any new solution. And that's particularly important right now for sports betting, where there is lots of interest around retail sports betting, but not a great deal of knowledge about how to go about and actually get something into the market. So I think that's where SUZOHAPP can really add value.
Yeah, that's interesting. And obviously, we're going to talk about retail, and we're going to talk specifically about the US with sports betting. It won't be news to our viewers that the US is a massive, much talked about market. But from your point of view, how much of an opportunity does retail sports betting in the US represent for the market as a whole?
Yeah, obviously, a lot of focus when everybody's talking about the US sports betting opportunity is online because it's a new area. But hand in hand with the online is the essential element of retail. And obviously in the US, there's a lot of sports fans who really do like to go down to a venue and experience the buzz of getting together. And that's the ideal opportunity to offer them sports betting. So I know we're talking to a number of customers that are looking at expanding sports betting into sports bar operations. And we see that an increasing part of the market. So at the moment, it's kind of limited to racetracks and casinos, but I think in the near future, you're going to see that expanding out into much more broader environments, including sports bars. So I think that's where the volume of the market really does start to take off.
It's interesting you mentioned talking about sort of properties other than casinos and certainly like sports bars, like you say. That's possibly something different to something you might get in the UK or in Europe. What are the key differences between retail sports betting? Because people always talk about the differences in Europe and the US. When it comes to retail specifically, how different are some European market, that something like the UK or France, than a typical kind of US state?
Yeah, I mean, traditionally sports betting was all done over the counter. So a punter would go to a betting shop, or in Europe, a betting corner, and they'd place the bet over the counter. So there'd be a teller or a member of staff behind, and they would either fill out a form or literally type the bet into a terminal, place the bet and give the consumer a receipt. I think increasingly that's moved to much more of a self-service betting terminal operation. So in the UK and across many European markets, there's a number of terminals, even in small betting corners in Europe. They may have one or two terminals where the player can casually walk up, place a bet either with cash or via some cashless mechanism, choose their bet selections, make some choices, maybe try and chase an objective in mind. So I want to target €100 win or €1,000 win, and then get a receipt. Increasingly, those retail betting solutions are integrated with online solutions as well. So, for example, the player can have an online wallet and be able to play online on their mobile phone or at home on their PC, or walk into a shop and play with the same funds. And I think that's the kind of panacea of solutions. And as the US rolls out, many of the sportsbook providers are offering that type of functionality. So the ability to have a similar betting experience right across all the platforms, but the way the information is presented is slightly different. So, for example, in a bar, it might be on a single screen device that looks like a tablet. In a sports book operation in a casino, it might be a twin screen stand-up terminal. And then, in a racetrack or in a cage at a casino, it might be over the counter. But all of those solutions are available.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's again interesting to see that we're talking about retail, but we can't help but talk about online at the same time. And the big kind of emerging market in the US is certainly kind of online gaming, because it's fairly new. Only a couple of states still have kind of regulated it. Do you still feel, even though of course online is rising at this speed, there's still kind of room for a strong retail offering, and that retail will always, especially in the US, be kind of a key part of the offering?
I think it will. I mean, I think if you think about, just your own or personal habits about the way you shop, depending on the environment that you're in, you may flick between placing a trade, a bet, or buying something online, to actually experiencing things firsthand in a retail environment. So I think, it's not one set of players that will play in retail versus online. I think depending on the situation, you might play at different times of day in different environments. So I think, for the majority of casino customers, you can imagine that part of their experience will be to go and play on the slots, to play on the tables, and part of that visit will also be to go to the sports book when there's a big event on and go and join in that. Depending on the demographic or how you're feeling, if you're just standing there and you want a casual bet, that's either via a terminal or maybe over your mobile phone. But equally, it could be at a table sitting with friends, having a nice drink, and having a much more immersive experience with a terminal in front of you. So I think, it's important from an operator's point of view to offer the full range of solutions to capture the maximum opportunity of the market.
Given this retail and online omni-channel kind of approach we're talking about, what are SUZOHAPP's plans for retail in the US, sort of more specifically?
Yeah, so we've been working very closely with a number of sports betting platform providers, because we feel they really hold the key to the market. So these platform providers essentially have a platform that meets all of the legislative requirements for each of the states, and they have a technical solution that stitches everything together. So it handles all of the betting information, the payment platforms, and they can be deployed on a number of different technical platforms. And then we basically take everything from there and provide all of the hardware solutions. So we go and source all the components, design the terminals, certify the terminals, manufacture them, and deliver them to site. So we take care of everything on the hardware side.
And you mentioned regulation, and definitely in the US, particularly, every jurisdiction has, some will be slightly different from each other, some will be completely different. Is this the main challenge when it comes to kind of operating in this US retail space? And if so, how does SUZOHAPP kind of help overcome this challenge? Sorry.
Yeah, no, it is a challenge. So each, as you say, each state is slightly different. Basically, we offer a service that we take care of all of that. So we'll manage the whole certification process. We've also built a infrastructure internally to all of our hardware products. So we have basically a subset of components that all work together as a platform, so a hardware platform, which means that we know how that's going to interact with the software, and it makes it easier for us to get it through the certification process rather than having to recertify a new set of components every time. So we've kind of limited the amount of variability, but we've made the process a lot easier from our point of view. And that means that we can get products into the market faster.
Yeah, that again makes sense. And I think my next question was going to be about the pandemic and actually getting a product quicker to market. Kind of, I suppose, ties in with that. Given it is, it's hard to not talk about the pandemic really, because we're speaking over Zoom, and this has become the norm for so many people. How much does that impact on kind of your strategy? Is it kind of, are you looking to do different things short term? Is it more an approach for the retail and pandemic now, and then in the long term it's different? What is the kind of SUZOHAPP's approach to this kind of strategically and generally speaking?
Yeah, I think it has put, the pandemic has certainly had an impact in the gaming and sports betting sectors, in that it's delayed rollout of some retail projects. But I think the flip side to that is also given people the strategic breathing room to make sometimes some tough decisions, but some important decisions for the future. So I think there is a lot of work going on in the background by both operators and the supply side of the business to make sure at the point things really do start opening up and we get the green light to open up, plans can be quickly put into place. So I think, it's been a very difficult time for everybody involved. But I think on the flip side, in a strange way, it's given people the opportunity to really focus and get a lot of work done in the background. So certainly from our point of view, we are poised and we're working on a number of projects that are just waiting for the green light when we know we can actually open the doors and get punters back in.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of right now and the demand, I think in some US states, we've seen that although revenue has fallen year on year, understandably, those casinos that are still open and properties that still kind of have betting, there still is a demand, isn't there, even during the pandemic on the retail side?
No, absolutely. If you compare how the US has handled the pandemic to how we do it in Europe, there's a lot more kind of carrying on regardless sort of mentality than there is in Europe, where we're almost in complete lockdown. So I think there's an underlying demand in the States which will bounce back very quickly when more of the locations are open 24/7, or at least across all of the states.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure, and that obviously is quite relevant right now. But my final topic I wanted to ask you about, sort of looking ahead and looking to the future, and bearing in mind things that we've touched on, such as regulation, the pandemic, and online betting legislation. It's a broad question, but what do you see as the future of US sports betting from the retail side?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very easy to fall into the trap of saying online is everything in the future. And actually, I think, the pandemic has shown that people need human interaction. So I think the desire to get back to a venue and share an experience with a lot of other people, especially if you can do it in an entertaining fashion, in a nice environment, I think the future is very bright for retail. Probably more now than ever before, because we're all craving some social interaction. So whereas, online is going to grow hugely in the US, retail will be a part of that growth story as well.
So retail's still fighting for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, Tim, thank you very much for your answers and your analysis, and thank you for your time.
Thanks again.
To all our viewers, thanks for watching our interview with Tim Kennedy. You can catch up on more from the US sports betting retail market in the Jan-Feb editions of Gaming America magazine and Gambling Insider magazine.